Ms Dumery, welcome to our Mediabox. So your report on irregular migration is just adopted in the Parliamentary Assembly session, and you called the Mediterranean Sea as a front door to irregular migration. We know the migration crisis and migration issue, but maybe it's better just to clarify, firstly, the irregular migration. What is that, and what is the position of the irregular migrants in the migrant crisis?
Is when the Committee on Migration here in the Council of Europe asked me to prepare this report. It was because we had many debates of what is irregular migration, and we saw there were humanitarian catastrophes happening in the Mediterranean Sea, and we wanted to know what is the scale of these disasters and what can we do about it. Because irregular migration, those are the ones who come to Europe without, before they come, going to an embassy. They flee for situations, they flee for war, example, they flee for economic reasons, and we have our European policies, and we wanted to know when they come to our European borders, how can we challenge or how can we face this humanitarian crisis. That's why firstly we went to look for figures. It was not so easy to look for correct figures of illegal migration because no one knows, when it's illegal you don't have a registration database to say how many it is. So UNHCR looks out in all the countries at the Mediterranean side, also to the other border, the external borders, to look for figures how many people have presented them there. Not only for registration for asylum, but all people who have captured or who have found in the sea, who have been there at the borders of the European Union. And sadly, we had to find out that in 2015 we have more than 1 million people who have tried to reach Europe in an illegal status, fleeing for war, fleeing for disaster, fleeing for a better life.
And especially for the irregular migration, the issue is, the question is to have a common European policy. So firstly, honestly, do you really believe that we can have a common European policy, and how? What are your recommendations on that point?
I'm convinced that the European countries want a common European policy because we're all facing this crisis in our own way. Or it's at the border itself, the countries of reception, or it's at the countries who when we are crossing through Schengen area, who are arriving in, for example, the northern Balkan countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, France. We are all facing with the challenge of this illegal migration. And then there are discussions about something who is very vulnerable, like our Schengen area. We all appreciate our Schengen area, but when we are putting our internal borders again in working order, that's not good for the discussion within Europe. We also saw that the Prime Minister of France a few days ago called on to say we are facing now another challenge, that's the integration of our European values. It's, our communities are facing a lot of burden right now. What are we going to do about it? So it's not only facing the challenge of the humanitarian crisis, but also it's being a European crisis.
From that point, particularly, what is the role of the Parliamentary Assembly, and specifically what are your recommendations to the Assembly to tackle with this issue? Because on the report as well, especially for the to have a common European response, so you talk about some based principles.
Yes.
So what are they? What would you like to say about that?
Firstly, we say that we have to firmly control our borders, external borders. All the countries in the European Union want that. When we acknowledge that we want our external borders to be controlled, then you have to give financial support, and you have to give support to Frontex, more capacities to, for example, a return policy. So we have the means, but we have to also have the financial means to the countries who are facing at the external border. Secondly, we have the principle of the hotspots within the European Union. We have already hotspots in Greece, we have already hotspots in Italy. A hotspot is a place where all the expertise of our administrations in the European Union are placed together and they register the people. They look for the asylum procedure, who is in the conditions of the Convention of Geneva, who is not. And when they're in the Convention of Geneva, they look to give a resettlement procedure within the European Union. The further step is when we strengthen our borders to think about, should we think about hotspots outside of the European Union? So we can prevent people to cross over and risk their lives at the Mediterranean Sea. It's a topic that's very sensible because you have to go to abroad with your policies. It's something like the European Union has to go abroad with the policy of a hotspot. But I think that when you negotiate with the countries, the receiving countries like Turkey, who are now facing a huge challenge of receiving Syrian refugees. It's about between 2 and 2.5 million refugees who are now are hosted there. That we have to think about if it's possible to have a hotspot outside the European Union.
Thank you for joining us and for all these clarifications.
Okay, thank you.